You're listening to the Run the Riot podcast, where we talk about all things ultra running. I'm your host, David Terrio, and man, I'm pumped that you are here. Let's see what we can get into today. Today on the Run the Riot podcast, we got Suzan Brydon. I said it wrong anyway.
And we talked about this, David.
That's
Come on
right.
now.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
No, glad to have you on, and we got some fun stuff to talk about. You've been doing some crazy things that we like to talk about.
Yeah, there's been a lot of crazy things over the last couple of years. I've listened to your podcast enough to know that you've been doing this longer than me. So especially for me, it seems like a lot of crazy things over the last couple of years.
Well, you know, one of the things I do before I interview somebody is I kind of go and look for their ultra sign up and look, kind of get a little background, get a feel for what they've been doing. And you and I have chatted before, before you did a bunch of the crazy. You had just done some of the crazy, and but just trying to look at your background and get a feel for when and you haven't been running ultras all that long.
No, I think my first ultra was, and I tried to make a note of it, 2021. And it was during the COVID lockdown. It's not even in ultra sign up. I actually did a virtual 50K where the money went to warrior women, women in the military in 2021 during lockdown, while we were all spending lots of time out by ourselves. Running far distances from each other.
That's right.
So just 2021. That's it.
Wow. So let's start unpacking it, and then because then we have some specific races I want. And then you did some races I never even heard of, and I was like, I need to ask her about this. So anyway, where do you live? Where are you located right now?
So I'm in the Denver area, actually closer to Boulder.
Okay. Denver. Are you from?
No, I grew up in Podunk, nowhere, Southern Illinois, farmland, close to Kentucky, like the part of Illinois that should have seceded to Kentucky a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I went to a school of 120 people. And then my freshman year in college, I decided to go to University of Illinois with 60,000 students and hated it. I went and saw the mountains for the first time that year. I came out and went to Boulder to see some people at CU Boulder, came back and said, that's it, packed up all my stuff and moved to the mountains. So didn't grow up here, but I went to school at CU Boulder, and then I've kind of been back and forth ever since.
Nice. I can relate to that because I just always remember anytime I go to Colorado, driving into Denver, especially when you're coming from Kansas and it's like flat and flat and flat. And then when you hit a certain point and you see the mountains and you're like, oh man, yeah, exactly. And I just love it. I feel, I try to get out there as much as I can, but no, that's cool. So what do you do? What do you do work-wise?
Yeah. So I work for the Cigna Group, Cigna Healthcare.
Okay.
And I've been doing that for about 10 years now. And actually, when we talk about next year, they're kind of part of my running story for next year in this weird way. So we'll get to that.
Nice.
I love it. Love helping patients. And it's just near and dear to my heart. I worked for quite some time with mostly pediatric patients with rare diseases. But now I work in more of the operations side of the business. So yeah,
nice.
I like it.
Nice. Keeps you busy. People always sick.
Yeah, always need medicine. Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Got you. Well, so you moved to Colorado. I know you had a little school. Did you run in school? When did you start like running or do athletic things? Yeah,
I always hated running. And I know that's not unusual to me, but
no, most ultra runners used to hate it.
Yeah, I used to always say I wouldn't run unless a T-Rex was chasing me. For the longest time, I said that.
Yeah.
I tried to do some track when I was in middle school, I think, and it just was not for me. So when I lived out here in Boulder, I did a little bit of just like casual biking, weights, workout classes, that kind of thing. Didn't really do much of anything, and kind of did that throughout most of my adult life. And it actually wasn't until I was in my 40s before I ran my first K. I
Wow.
was in my 40s. So my husband, when he was in his 20s, he was a cross country runner in Australia. And
Wow.
before I knew him, he got into running himself, and he was just a casual runner. And then in the late 90s, he was in his 20s, again, before I knew him, and he got diagnosed with testicular cancer. And he had some health battles, after that time. But again, when we were married in 2013, he got diagnosed a second time with cancer. And when he was going through radiation, he said, when I get done with this radiation, I'm going to run my first half marathon. And I thought, that's incredible, right? He's going through these trials and tribulations, and all he can think about is setting a goal and making his body healthy and his mind healthy. So I was so impressed by that. And I thought, good for you. That's amazing. I will not be running a half marathon, but
More power to you, bro.
yeah, I mean, kudos, and I'll be there to cheer you on. But I thought, maybe if he can do that, I should be able to run a 5K for the first time and raise money for cancer support, and we can kind of do this together. So he did. He finished radiation and he ran his half marathon, and I ran a 5K, and I did a very methodical couch to 5K app plan and made it. I was very nervous. I still remember how nervous I was about that first 5K. So we did it. And then a year later, he had a recurrence of cancer. And this time he had chemo. And when he was in chemo, he said, when I get done with this chemo, I'm going to run a marathon. And again, I thought, amazing. I will not be running a marathon. But if you can do that, and I saw, what he was going through, if you can do that, I should be able to run a half marathon on the same day. And again, raise money and be there to support each other. And so he did. He ran about 7-minute mile marathon. I don't know how. It was a beast.
Yeah,
16
no kidding.
weeks
That's
after
good.
chemo. Yeah, he should be on, not
that's
me.
Awesome. Yeah.
But
we'll get him next time.
That's right. Yeah. But he's my why. So he's part of my story. But he ran his marathon and I ran a half. And when I finished that, I thought, two things. I've seen somebody, personally leaning into discomfort in ways across the board that I've never experienced before. And I can do more things than maybe I thought I could do when it comes to exercise and running in particular. So by that time, I kind of started geeking out about it. So we started doing some half marathons together. And then we did a first full marathon together in 2018. And then 2021 is when I started ultras, and I just kept, every time I start to get uncomfortable or nervous, I would just go, is that my limit? Like, have I leaned into that discomfort enough?
Yeah.
Hey, maybe not. So yeah, that's how we got here to these crazy races.
I love it. I relate to that so much because every time I'd increase the distance or do something, people are like, why? It's like, because I felt like I had something more to give or more
to give.
Yeah, I could do more. But it's like, yeah, but
That's
you were pretty
right.
wrecked. But I still could have kept going.
And you were wrecked, but it was temporary.
That's right.
And
That's
you,
right.
And you recovered. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Nice. So yeah, that's pretty. So before we continue on, does your husband still run?
Oh, so the finish of that story is going to sound even crazier, I think. So we did our first ultra together, a 50K in Florida. It was a Blaze Pioneer Trail Race in 2022. And at that time, he had a third cancer diagnosis of
Holy
melanoma,
smokes.
all these surgeries and all of this. And then we were doing the Dopey Challenge at Disney. Do you know what I'm talking about with all the races together? Anyway, January 23, after our 50K, we were jumping to the airport and found out that he had B-cell lymphoma. And that was January of last year, 4 different kinds of cancers, 4 times. So last year, all the way through July, he had chemo for the 3rd time.
Wow.
And then when he got done, he said, I am going to run a 50-miler. And so 2024, this guy ran 3 50-milers this year and did his first 100-miler at Stagecoach. not too long
What a
ago.
beast, man. That's
Right?
impressive, man. He's like, I'm gonna show cancer who's boss, man.
That's exactly
Golly.
right. And
Holy
that
smokes.
mentality, yeah, I mean, and I share this because I know this has spoken to a lot of people, but
Yeah.
his cancer team, and he has many cancer doctors at this point
Yeah.
because he's a
Yeah.
cancer former. He's a serious cancer former. They have said to him every time that he is their textbook, like special classic patient, because he never lets it get him down. He never lets it derail him from having goals and pushing himself in healthy ways and just really refusing to give up. And so, again, every time I'm out there and if I've been awake for 48 hours, which just happened, and I'm
Yeah.
really struggling to put one foot in front of the other, I just think like there's so many more things that are harder than this. And we underestimate ourselves.
Well, I talk a lot about, I talked to our cross country team at school just before they went to regionals, just trying to talk to them. And I usually try to talk to them about gratitude, like, when you get to do this. And there's so much, so much we can unpack right here. And I don't know if we want to do it all, but in running, I do believe, gratitude. I believe that when we're positive, we're running better. You look at Courtney DeWalter, you look at, just having that positive mindset, and then when you're thanking others and you run better. But when you're studies have shown that people who are dealing with cancer and other life-threatening diseases, their attitude I mean, you probably could talk to the people that have worked with your husband, and usually when they have the best attitude, there's a high percentage that they're going to come through it,
Absolutely.
if they're positive and they're
Absolutely.
fighting it. So, man, that's
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah, I know he's amazing. I love talking about him and sharing his story, and his story, my story are intertwined in the best way possible because he
Yeah.
just inspires me.
That's so cool. That's awesome. Well, so it sounds like he would run something, and then you'd run half of it. But it sounds like things might have flip flopped now, so a
That's
little
right.
bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So now he's eyeing his races for next year. And as he was looking through Ultra Sign Up, I said, what are you looking at over there? And he's
What
like,
are you doing?
the Cowboy 200 is, I thought, oh, yeah, here we go. It
He's like,
started.
it's my turn, Susan.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
That's so good. Well, so so let he kind of got you into this, and you started running, and you started doing these races. And I'm looking at some of these, like the Bear Chase 50 mile, and you just kind of do it, Brazos Bend 50 mile, and you're doing all of these. And so when
Yep.
did you sign up for your first 100 miler? Which one was I don't know if it's on here or not. Was that
So
Jackpot?
I did, yeah, I did the 24-hour endless mile in Alabama with the goal of seeing how close I could get to 100 miles. So I ended up at 90 miles with giant blisters on my feet. But then that let me know I could for sure, I felt very confident I could do a 100 miler. So then I signed up for Jackpot. Yep, that's
Yeah.
right.
What is that? What is the endless mile? I don't know. I'm not familiar
Oh
with
my
that race. What is that
gosh.
one?
It was like a mile and a half loop around a park in the
Okay.
Birmingham area. It's one of those hamster wheel kind of,
That's exactly what my wife calls them, those
you
hamster
just
wheel
keep
races.
going.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I guess that for me, you were talking about the fact that you said some of the races you didn't know about or recognize. And I think maybe that's one thing that I have found so far talking to other ultra runners that I look at a little bit differently. I tend not to gravitate toward the classic, most high profile, well known races, just like I didn't when I was running the marathons. Like Boston wasn't of interest to me, Chicago wasn't of interest to me. Like, that's just not really my thing. I tend to choose races first and foremost that something about it makes me laugh just because I'm a goofball.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
like the fact of them describing this as just this torturous 1 mile loop, and they made jokes about it, I thought, okay, yeah,
Man.
I could get behind that. I mean, the first marathon I did was the Mo Cowbell in the St. Louis, Missouri area. And again, that whole marathon is themed on the SNL skit about more cowbell from
Are you
Christopher Walken and
serious?
Will Ferrell. Yeah, that's the whole
I might need
purpose
to
of
run this
the race.
marathon. That's all.
That's
That is
right. And they ring
fantastic.
the cowbell at the end and they play. So
I got to
that's
look that
probably
up.
why you haven't recognized some of the races, is because I tend to gravitate toward things that there's something funny about. Like Brazos Bend is a great, great race. But as soon as I found out it was at an alligator preserve and I saw a little alligator running by someone, I thought, that's hilarious. I want to do that.
I'm in.
It's on. I'm in. Count me in.
Well, it's funny because like thinking about it, with the marathons like I've done and my wife and I have done together, some of the fun ones has been like the Hog Eye in Springdale, Arkansas, where there's a pig and they give you a nose at the beginning, and it's like just
I need to look at it.
Yeah, Hog Eye, totally fun, totally just off the wall. And then we love the Little Rock Marathon because they always have a crazy theme. This year it's I'm from Louisiana, so it's laissez les bon temps cool. Let the good times run. And so, and they always have a medal that's like bigger than your head. And so, yeah, we gravitate towards those too. It's kind of fun to just pick those little quirky, that run 26.2 in the craziness. Yeah,
that's right. That's why I just finished the challenge in Kansas that I did, just a few weeks back.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, as soon as I saw that, again, back to kind of an SNL skit, where as soon as I found out that someone had designed a challenge around an SNL skit, and I don't consider myself an overly competitive person against other people, but I'm definitely competitive with myself, trying to check off big goals. And as soon as I found out there's a huge long distance ultra, pair of races that are named after an SNL skit, and no one has ever finished it before, again, I'm in. Like, I have to try this. I even bought a shirt because I was so confident that I was going to finish. I bought a Sofa King Awesome Challenge shirt and wore it in the last 2 miles coming in because I was like, this is happening.
Okay, so I'm going to explain what you just said because it's a family friendly. It's sofa, like you're sitting on the sofa, king. You're the king of the sofa. Awesome.
That's
all right.
right.
So don't.
Nobody write in.
Nope. So that's what the challenge is. And I want to go back to your 100-miler, but I want to tell people what the challenge is. It's 2 races over 100 miles, and they're like, 2 weeks apart?
Yeah. So it was the Pure Hell 140 at September 27th, and then the Heartland 125 on October 11th. So they were 12 days apart. And I'd never done those distances that close together. So wasn't sure how it was going to pan out, but
I can't wait to unpack that. Yeah, we're gonna unpack that. We'll get there. We're gonna get there, but that's cool. What? Yes, this is crazy. I had to look it up when you told me about the challenge. I was like, what kind of challenge? And I like that race directors kind of get together and do these challenges and just come up with some crazy things like I don't know, just crazy challenges to try to get people to push past their limits, and it's fun.
Yeah. And, the support that I had, Casey and Chase Hammond, which of course you know them, the support I got from them when I signed up I had run the Cowboy 100, so I knew them from that. But the support when I signed up, and then when I finished the 140, I was the only woman to finish. And then after that, the week leading up to the 125 this month, they messaged me directly and they're like, you absolutely have this. Like, we're sending you good vibes, but we have no doubt that you are going to complete this challenge. And then again, they sent me direct messages afterwards and said they never had a doubt. And I was like, that to me, I mean, we know what the ultra running community is like.
Yeah.
But they're, all the race directors and volunteers are amazing, but that's just an example of how interpersonally connected you can get and how supported you can feel, which makes all the difference.
Yeah, definitely. I love those guys. And, I've been with them at different races and stuff, and I haven't run one of their races yet. And so shame on me, because they're probably listening now, and it just never worked out to where I could. So I need to remedy.
Shame I know.
It's
David.
Not, sorry guys. I've been kind of injured on and off a little bit. So that's my excuse. And so, and my daughter plays.
That's a decent excuse.
Yeah. And my daughter plays softball. So it's,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. Stuff all the time.
For sure.
But so let's rewind. Let's get back to that. So you did that 90-miler in the endless mile in just hamster wheeling it, and so
22,
yeah. What a those are like just mental, like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
physical. Weren't you so happy the last time you ran that loop? Like, you're like, this is the last time I'm doing this stupid loop. I mean, really, because I've done looped races, not that small of a loop, but it's like, this is the last time I got to see this stupid tree or trip over this root or whatever.
Well, I must not have hated it that much because I signed up next year for another one
Oh, yeah.
for 100 hours, and it's again
Nice.
a 2 mile loop. So the funny thing is, I think I'm still discovering things about myself because, as I said, I haven't been doing that this kind of thing that long. But I would say the one thing I've discovered about myself, I'm not overly fast, but I am persistent, and I can entertain myself mentally for a very long time. So I do audiobooks, I do music, I sometimes talk to myself, I talk to people running near me, I talk to my pacers and my crew. I another thing is I like to interact with the aid station folks by doing things like sometimes I'll bring them a random gift from my campsite or whatever, like a keychain that just says I appreciate you. Or sometimes I'll wear a joke shirt and have my pacer wear a shirt. Like in the Pure Hell, I wore a shirt that said, I was told Benedict Cumberbatch was at the aid station. And then my pacer wore a shirt that said, just roll with it. Like that kind of a
Yeah,
paired
yeah, that's
shirt. So
good.
I can keep myself entertained for quite a long time. It doesn't really bother me.
No, but like, that helps you. Okay. It's funny for them and everything else, but it helps you because it lightens the mood. It goes back to that gratitude, that positivity, just that goofiness. It reminds me of my friends Chris Baldwin and Ronnie in Arkansas. They like to wear these shirts that just say like moist. Just it says just moist, or they do something stupid like that, and they're always got something quirky,
Yeah.
because everybody hates that word.
It helps. It helps you because you're kind of excited then to make it to the aid station next, right? So you're like, oh, in 6 more miles, I get to show them my shirt. And like for some reason, that just really works for me. So
Yeah,
my
no,
crew knows that about me, and they help me, like plan those things out. And then they do crazy things sometimes. When I was doing the Pure Hell, and those are 20-mile loops, because I was so confident I was going to win this challenge that we just talked about, I bought myself a crown, and we put it in this fancy carved box. And every time I would finish a loop, they would open it and go touch the crown. And so I would touch the crown, and then I would take off on the loop again. But
I love
that
it.
to me, it makes it so much more entertaining and palatable. Honestly, it helps me bond even more with my crew of pacers too, which
Yeah,
is a special thing.
you're creating, just memories, while you're doing it, act just
Yeah.
it's fun. Oh man, that's good. Well, and a lot of people, one of the things we talk about, tools, mental tools. Got a dog.
Yeah. Sorry. We closed that
That's all
door.
good. It's all good. But mental tools, and there's just a lot of different things that you can do. And I like that you said that. And like, I've run, 100 milers where with no music, no headphones, no books, and nothing. But I've had, somewhere I've listened to a whole book, somewhere I've done some music. It just depends on what I feel like I need, what the mood is, and stuff like that. And it sounds kind of like that's what you do. You just kind of go roll with it.
I do. And I plow through. I do that when I'm training and in the race. You can probably tell behind me, I love to read. I'm an academic geek. And I plow through probably 60 audiobooks minimum a year. And the only
I'm with
catch
you.
is sometimes you find yourself into a book while you're training, but it's not a great book for you while you're running. For example, the Heartland 125, that was just like 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. I was really into this book that was a best-selling novel. I think it was like a young adult best-selling novel. And it was about vampires and witches. And it was kind of a love story between the
Yeah, yeah.
vampire and the witch. But anyway, regardless, there were some, precarious moments, scary moments. And here I am, it's 1 a.m, and I'm hearing the
Nice.
coyotes howl, and I'm like, nope. Time to play some
Yes.
time to play some music. I don't need to be
That's
hearing
good.
about these things right now.
That's good. That's good. I relate to that too. I listen to a lot of books, and like Audible. I got Audible, and then I have some with Spotify, and I'm trying to not
Yeah.
spend a fortune on all these audio books, but they're, And you know, you ever find yourself getting kind of lost in the book, or like there's an action,
Yes.
something going on, and your pace picks up? Isn't that crazy?
Or I've gotten lost. I've gotten lost several
You
times.
get lost in the
Turned
book, you get
around.
lost on the road.
It literally happens on a regular basis. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I missed a flag or I missed a turn. And so I try to be really aware that I have a tendency to do that. You won't
Nice.
find me doing Barkley or anything. I'm horrible at orienteering. So I have to
Yeah.
be like very planned and careful. If I feel like things aren't well marked, that's typically when I'll pause my book and go, maybe I'll just run in silence for a while so I
Yeah.
don't get turned around.
Yeah, I relate too. I try to orient myself well, but you know, when people give me directions, like you turn west and or you turn right, you turn east, and I'm like, is that a right or a left? I don't have a compass right now. You just tell me.
Give me some landmarks.
Yeah,
Is
that's
it
right.
like, Old Man Johnson's farm with the
Yeah, that's
red
right.
barn and the White House? That I can get. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm with you.
No, that's good. So, so you end up signing up for an official 100 miler at Jackpot, and how did it go? Like that was your first official 100 miler. Tell me how did you train for it, and then how did it unfold for you?
Yeah. So my training has changed like most people over time. At that time, it was really just about how many miles can I put in. And so I probably overdid the miles coming in, but I'll be honest, I felt really good until until about
Until
5 hours in. And then there was a horrendous windstorm from about 11 a.m. that day until 11 the next day. They had 30 to 40 mile per hour headwinds.
yeah, go figure.
And it dropped, and it dropped down into the high 30s, low 40s
Wow. Yeah.
overnight. So I made it, but there were some times out there in the dark by myself doing that loop, which is again, same kind of loop, when I would hit that, face first, hit that wind gust. And I thought, hey, I'm going to be curious to see how this pans out at the end.
Yeah.
But it was, I made it. It was fine. It worked.
Yeah.
And I came in second. So I have no complaints. Or came in second for women. So I have no complaints.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's amazing. No, and it's those things like you don't know what you don't know until you find out, like until it happens. Because, if you go in thinking what it's going to feel like, how hard it's going to be. And then a race, it could be a race you've done before or a lesser mileage race, and you might hit a new low or deal with something else that just throws you for a loop, and you got to start figuring it out, and
That's
like
right.
mentally figure it out. Like, okay, how do I handle this mentally so I can handle it physically? Because you got to do both.
Yeah. And I love sleep more than most people. I think I normally go to bed at 9 at night and sleep until 6 in the morning. I could sleep and sleep and sleep. And I love power naps.
How do you train?
That's right. Where do I squeeze it in somewhere? But so I thought when I went into my first 24-hour in the first 100, I thought my Achilles heel is not going to be my Achilles heel. It's going to be it's going to be sleep. Yeah. And I was wrong, actually. The sleep has so far, knock on wood, never been a huge problem for me. I've been able to go more than 48 hours without sleep. I'm very loopy and I had a couple hallucinations, but I made it. So it wasn't sleep. For a while, it was nutrition and my feet, with blistering on my feet. I addressed both of those pretty well now, although the nutrition was a problem this last one as well. I'm gluten-free and I don't eat meat. So I eat fish, but I don't eat meat. And so unless I pack my things really carefully, or it happens to be very robust aid stations or made to order food, then I can get into situations where I'm just not taking in enough calories.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes it tough. Yeah, so often, like even people that I coach, there's trial and error because everybody's different. And you talked about your feet are different than anybody else's feet. And, whereas I might not have a whole lot of trouble with blistering or issues like that. And some people just, you got to figure out the socks, you got to figure out the shoes, you got to figure out what you got to do pre-race. You got to tape them, you got to lube them down, don't need anything. You got to figure out what works for you. And in the race, every race is different. Are there water crossings? Are you going to sweat a lot? Is it dry as a bone?
Right.
And you gotta try to figure it out. What did you figure out was your issue with your feet?
Well, and you actually said it best. It took me getting a coach before I
Okay.
actually was able to figure it out. And I figured it out with my coach's help. So my coach is Peter Mortimer.
Nice.
He does 8 More Miles coaching. And, you know, when I was first thinking about doing a 200 miler is when I really started thinking about a coach, because although I knew at that point I could do the hundreds, A, this is double the distance I've ever done. And B, I knew there were still these problem areas like my feet, like nutrition, and I just needed additional guidance on it. So he gave me some very specific approaches about powder, double socks, toe socks, what to do, how to tie my shoes, and all these sorts of things that just made all the difference. So the 200-mile race, I don't know how. I mean, I do know how it happened because he gave me guidance, but I think I had one pea-sized blister on my foot, on one foot, and that was it for 200 miles. So I was sold on that regime, and I do that constantly now. It makes a huge
Nice.
difference.
No, that's fantastic. And when you find something that works for you, it's, man, it's so good. Wait, is it Peter? Isn't he fat adapted? Doesn't he do, does he do low carb
Yeah.
high? So yeah, how does he coach you? I mean, I know he can coach anybody, but you're kind of got a little different diet than he does.
Yeah, I think he wishes I ate more meat all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but that's actually one of the reasons why we bonded. And I thought he's a good coach for me because, and he has his own story, but he has some autoimmune responses to certain foods and
Yeah.
inflammatory, I should say, inflammatory
Yeah.
responses to
Yeah.
certain foods. I do as well, and have some autoimmune reactions to some foods. And so we kind of bonded over this problem with nutrition. And as it turns out, because I'm gluten free, I don't eat a lot of your typical carbs anyway, like your pizzas, bread, pastas. I just didn't eat in the first place. And so I was able to kind of tweak some of those ways in which I think for me, I was relying a little too much on sugary things when I was having nutrition problems. And I was able to really shift more to like root vegetable and, lots and lots of fish and good healthy fats. And that has made, again, all the difference for me. So even when I was having nutrition problems a couple weeks ago, because I kind of trained my body the way I have, I was able to go for quite some time, even with an upset stomach, and still had a reasonable amount of energy to keep moving. So that was helpful.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, that's good. And it's difficult, just in your regular diet, during your training, you're putting in all these miles, you got to get in the calories. Well, and you're restricted with the calories you can take, but you've got to feed
That's
the
right.
machine, and that's
Yes,
what some people are like, oh, I need to cut a few. No, feed the machine, dude. If the
yeah,
furnace is burning hot enough, it'll burn it, eat the right things, eat the things that'll fuel you, but you got to feed yourself, and
absolutely.
yeah, no,
Absolutely.
that's good. That's cool. And so, yeah, so it's helpful, when you to get guidance, and he's done some amazing races. He's a beast and stuff, so he can help guide you on the journey
Yeah.
and help, fix some of those little issues. So where you not, because sometimes we could, you probably figure it out at some point, but somebody can help you figure it out a lot quicker.
Yeah, and you may have to not have as much pain between now and the time that you would eventually figure it out through trial and error
Yeah,
versus having someone who has done their own trial and error and also understands some of those unique reactions that you're having. So that's been really helpful.
that's awesome. That's good. Well, so yeah, so you do another loopy course at Jackpot. How did your body respond? You got your first 100 miles in. How did your body respond there? I know you were still doing your own thing then, more or less, and then did you recover? Were you wrecked? How'd it go?
Yeah, so I was pretty wrecked at the 24 hour, that being my first longest. That I had done a kind of 50-mile 100K distances, but I was pretty wrecked in that 90-mile 24 hour. And then I still notice that every time I do another 100 miler, I'm less and less and less and less wrecked. And I think it's just because I've slowly learned what the right pace is for me and when to stretch and how to stretch and when to put my feet up and when to keep going and that sort of thing. So after I did Jackpot, my family was there watching. My mom, she's in her 80s, and my aunt, And I
Love
walked
it.
around with them on the Vegas Strip the next day, so I wasn't doing too badly. But
That's
after
great.
that, I think I started figuring it out, and then would be totally fine to try to take a 2-hour power nap and then go out to eat with family and crew and pacers. That's kind of where I am now. That's kind of how the race I just finished. I was up more than 48 hours and took a 2.5 hour nap, and then we went out to eat.
Isn't it crazy? Because like I remember I did, I think it was was it the second time or I don't know when I did Arkansas Traveler and we stayed at a hotel and there was a Waffle House right outside and I'd finished, I did well, it was good race and I was pretty sore and then I just slept a couple hours and popped up and I was like, well, I'm about to go spend my life savings at Waffle House. I just slowly walked on over to Waffle House and just by myself at I don't know 3 in the morning and chowed down.
My gosh. I tried to do that with my crew so I ran my first 200 miler this last March and the cane break. And I tried to do that with my crew. I tried to just take a 2 to 3 hour rest, got up, took everyone to a pizza place and ordered pizza. Everyone had a glass. They cheered, we all cheersed. I took one sip and one bite of pizza, and then I just laid my head on the table and they had to walk me out to the car and just put me in the back seat because I had the best of intentions, but I don't know. The 200 was different. I was like, nope, I can't. I'm sorry, folks. It's not going to happen.
I can't even.
I can't even.
So let's talk about because I hadn't heard about that 200 miler. So that's in Atlanta, Georgia, the Canebrake 200 miler, and that's a loopy course, right?
Yeah. So it's a 10-mile loop and a 5-mile loop, and there's some overlap and some difference, but it's a beautiful trail area. You would not realize that you're right outside of downtown Atlanta. It's so thickly wooded. They actually filmed part of the Hunger Games.
What?
In that park area. Yeah, there's an old mill there. It's like half standing with all these trees and kind of raging river through it. And that's where they filmed part of the Hunger Games. But it was a beautiful course. And because it was mixed up 10-mile loop, 5-mile loop, it made it feel not so loopy.
Yeah. Could you choose which loops you did? Could you just change it up when you wanted to, or you had to do?
No. Yeah. You had to do it. And it had surprisingly, for Atlanta area, right outside it, like literally 20 minutes from the airport, roughly, it had a decent amount of elevation gain over the 200 miles. I think it was, I want to say it was like 16 to 19,000 feet elevation gain, which it was, kind of rocky rolly, with unfortunately with about a set of 10 flights of steps at the end, which is just mean. That's
just wrong. That's terrible. Oh man. Well, was it mostly trail or was it, paved or how was it?
No, it was trail. It was all trail. Okay. It's really pretty.
All right. I'm just kind of opening that to have on my radar. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So you did 200 miles and you had a pizza party that you didn't party too much.
That I did from that I slept through.
But you did, I mean, the first time, especially like when you do, a new distance like that, but man, you finished and your time was 79 hours, under 80 hours. You did sub 80, like right there. That's fantastic. That's,
I was proud. But again, we said still learning things about myself. I think that's what I am learning is that distance is my game. I think I'm
noticing
I can go a really long distance. Yeah. And so I'm glad there are starting to be more 200 plus milers because I'm looking for more challenges. I personally have a bucket list item where I'm trying to do one ultra in every state, which is kind of why you see me bouncing around different places on Ultra Sign Up. So I've done 16 states and we just need more states to have more long distance ultras.
Yeah, no kidding. Have you done Louisiana yet?
I have not. I've done Colorado. I wrote them down actually. Colorado, Arizona, Kentucky, Texas, Washington, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Alabama, Florida, Nevada, Missouri, Nebraska, Georgia, California, South Dakota, and Kansas.
Nice. Well, let me tell you. So Louisiana, I think it's 2 more years, and then it won't have a 100 miler in Louisiana. So the Loup-Garou in South Louisiana, I'm almost positive right now it's the only 100 miler, unless somebody added another one. But it's the
Okay.
Loup-Garou. So if you want a 100 miler, and
Okay.
that's where I did my first 100 miler was on that trail, and then I've done it twice, 100 miles on it. So
Yes,
it's
please.
it's
Thank
pretty
you. I'll
awesome.
look it up.
Yeah, it's very Louisiana too. They have Cajun food, and it's well, you probably couldn't eat some. You could probably eat some of it though.
Yeah, I can eat rice and beans. I have no problem with rice and beans.
All right, yeah, but it's pretty awesome. So anyway, just put that in your pocket.
I will. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great race. And so yeah, you did the 200 miler, and I kind of like that when you discover like, hey, I really like these longer challenges and figuring it out, trying to unpack it, and there's so much. Okay, did you? I remember when I did my first 200 at Tahoe, trying to figure out like, well, I don't know what I'm going to need when. I can set up. I like making pace charts and everything, but you're like, 100 miles in, like in the mountains or whatever. I don't know if it's going to be day or night when I hit here. I don't know if I'm going to need a headlamp. You can just guesstimate and hope you guessed right. It's kind of crazy.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do like to be very detailed, and I'm a very kind of plan focused person by nature. I'm the one that plans all the family vacations and plan at work and all these sorts of things. So I think that helps you. It helps me anyway. But inevitably, things never go to plan. You never know what's going to happen. Like, these most recent races, I kind of underpacked in terms of sunscreen type shirts. So I got sun
Mm,
poisoning all over my arms. I can't tell you how many times that I've run out of headlamps when I'm still like 3 miles out from the aid station,
yeah,
or,
yeah,
the batteries go dead or whatever. So, we have the best of intentions, and I think it is important to plan. And I've been very fortunate. I track pretty close to plan all the time. Like
that's
the
good.
125 I just did, I came in 15 minutes under my plan.
Nice.
It was like right, like clockwork. So the more I do them, the more I kind of know what contingencies and what things might go wrong, knowing myself, and then also what I need to get right.
Yeah. When you did so that first 200 miler in Georgia, what did you do? What did you plan for as far as sleep? Because that's the big question.
Okay,
I'm sure you got asked that a lot.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm
What did
thinking
you
about it
plan
for
for,
next
and then
year.
what happened?
Yeah, what I planned for didn't happen.
Okay.
So I decided that pretty much every 20 to 25 miles, depending on whether I was doing a 5-10-5 loop or 10-5-10, roughly every 20 to 25 miles, I was going to take a rest. So I timed it out and planned it out. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take an hour rest because I didn't care what place I had. I just
Yeah.
wanted to cross that finish line. That was it. I
Yeah.
knew time wise that would play out just fine. That did not work at all because the first time I tried to sleep, I'm only 20 or 25 miles in. I mean, I didn't sleep, but I didn't even want to lay down. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm feeling good right now. It's
Let's do this.
daytime. I
Let's
just want to
go.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then by the time I got to the second or third rest time period, it had rained all the first day. And so it was thick, thick mud. And half the people dropped within the first day because of that. And I was just, my legs were achy, like carrying that extra weight around with me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so even when I lay down, I was just achy, and I was cold, and I just couldn't rest. And so every time I'd try to lay down, I would toss and turn for a little bit. And then I would just tell my pacers or crew, like, I'm just getting up. I'm just going to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think across the 80 hours, I did lay down with my eyes closed a total of about 5 hours. And that was way less than I thought
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
would.
Yeah.
But, powered through and made it fine.
Yeah, well, you kind of find out, like, 'cause you don't know how your body's going to respond to it. You don't, first night's different from the second night's different from the third night. It's just
That's right.
and the conditions. You just have to kind of figure it out, and we go in with plan, and then we just have to adapt. So yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So yeah, so you went ahead and crushed that, and then you saw the Sofa King Awesome Challenge, and you signed up
For the
for.
people for the
Oh,
people
there it
who
is. Yeah.
happen to see us.
Oh, that is so good. There
Yeah.
you go. That's so cool. I love it. I love it. And we'll make sure we have a picture of it too. For those who are listening, they can jump up on they can go to the show notes page and check it out. That's cool. So 2 races, less than 2 weeks apart. So here's the thing. Kansas, September 27th. It's nice and very cool, huh? It's very not hot, right? No, no.
One would think that that's in the realm of possibility.
Maybe one
And
time.
yeah, someday, like 40 years ago, I don't know. The week leading up to the race was beautiful. And I made the mistake. I gave it a mouth. I was bragging to all my friends. I'm like,
Gonna be good.
this forecast looks beautiful. It's like high in the high mid 70s, low 50 at night. Oh my gosh, I couldn't ask for anything better. Well, yeah, you kind of know how that pans out. It was same kind of thing. Half the people dropped the race because it was 94, 95. People were dropping left and right from overheating and dehydration and all those sorts of things. I moved very, very slowly day 2 in that heat because we had it 2 days in a row, very slowly. But I kept moving.
Yeah.
And that particular trail is also a beautiful trail, has a giant lake in the middle, but it's all exposed.
I was going to ask,
I would say 95+% exposed. So that was tough. That was a tough one.
And then you're doing that. Okay. The heat does take a toll on you, and you got to figure it out. You got to make sure you're drinking, but it's still being in that heat, your body absorbing that. And you're thinking, when I'm done with this, I don't have long and I've got to do another race.
Right.
So it's like you really have to think long term, because you've got that going on too. You said something about getting sun poisoning. What did you do? What were your tools to help mitigate the exposure?
Yeah. So when I got to Heartland, I stayed what my folks would say rugged up most of the time. And it was reasonably warm on, the full day length of the Heartland, because the Heartland starts at 10 p.m. at night.
Yeah. Okay.
So I started at 10 p.m. Friday night and ended Sunday morning. So it was really only Saturday that I had to worry about that. By that time, the rash had all kind of subsided, and I slathered myself in constant sunscreen all day, but I did keep layers on much better than I did when I was doing the Hell Creek. And I would say I purposefully worked with my coach to say, okay, what am I going to do in those 12 days to recover? First and foremost, to your point, I had to leave a little bit in the tank. I couldn't just go full throttle and then expect to move 12 days later.
Yeah. Well, you were doing Hell Creek for 49 hours, 140 miles in 49 hours. And then with the heat, extreme heat. So, I mean, that's a long time on your feet, a long time in the heat. Yeah. And then you had to plan okay, what after? Yeah. To get me ready to do it again.
That was tough. My feet had some issues. I kept it at bay, but they had some issues a little bit at Pure Hell. So that was really my main focus for the 12 days. I did some cold plunges. I did tons of work on my feet to make sure they were as pristine as possible going into that next challenge.
Did you get a pedicure?
I did. And I even send you a picture. I had a crown for the challenge. I had a crown painted on my toes because I'm like, eye on the prize.
That's awesome.
So I did that. And then again, I'm a tiny person. So I basically, Peter's suggestion was eat and then eat and then eat again and then eat some more. And then when you think you're full, eat some more. Because, you burn a lot of calories. And as a tiny person who has food constraints, that was really a key for me to build up my strength again.
Yeah. Your body, it's kind of like when you have, when someone has surgery, like major surgery, like heart surgery or whatever, when they get cut open, that you have to consume large amounts of calories to heal. Well, you didn't have surgery, but you put your body through trauma for 49
That's right.
hours. And so you've got to, your body needs the nutrients to heal. And so, you don't, a lot of times you don't feel like eating right away after, but it's kind of like
Exactly.
do you, I always like to ask this, like when you're just training, like when you do your long run on, your Saturday or Sunday, whatever, do you immediately have protein or some things right after?
So yeah, I do. Yeah. And then I also, again, just like with my normal races, or I like to have fun with it, I have a lot of fun when I do my long runs too. So sometimes I'll pack myself a picnic and just drop into a park, pause my watch and have some sandwiches and whatever else I got going on. Sometimes I make my aid stations Starbucks. And so I'll go and have a protein box at Starbucks with like an
Nice.
iced latte or something. And then I'll just run to the next one. If it's maybe 15 miles away, I'll just run to the next one.
That's cool. That's
So
fun.
yeah, yeah. I know people do these Taco Bell challenges and things. I can't eat that, but I use Starbucks for the same purpose.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like here in Oklahoma, there's the Tulsa Urban Ultra, and you're running basically a 25-mile loop through Tulsa, and you get a Quick Trip card, and you use the Quick Trip gas stations as aid stations.
That's perfect. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, you just got to use what's there. And it's,
yeah,
it's kind of, you can people watch. It's a fun little break.
yeah, yeah. So you're prepping. How did your how was your training different? Getting ready for these two races back to back. What did you do differently from some of your other races?
Yeah, we did that a little bit differently. So I actually was consistently running 6 days a week and putting in quite a number of miles in those first couple of 100 milers. And then kind of changed tactics a little bit. I started adding 2 days of weight training a week, usually coupled on the same day with a really tiny run, like, 3 mile run, 4 mile run. And then for these challenges, and we kind of approached it mentally a little bit differently. We were like, I know I can do the miles. That's not an issue. So maybe we preserve the body a little bit more, back off on the miles a little bit, maybe mix in a day of hiking so I can get more vert, and just, kind of think about the hike and the rest a little more as I went in. And obviously it worked.
Oh yeah. What did you going into that? What was your highest mileage week? With hiking and running. Just
Mm,
curious.
yeah, I think probably maybe 60
Okay.
miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
with some weight
I mean,
training.
higher, but manageable. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Weight training and stuff. Yeah. Strength training. That's important. And even practicing the hiking, because you do a lot of power hiking in these things. You spend a lot of
That's
time
right.
doing it. And so why not train that? Because it's a different movement, different muscles, get
Different
efficient at it
muscles.
too. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's good. All right. People
Yeah.
listening, you want to do long distance, do some hiking.
That's right. Do some
Yeah.
hiking, do
Yeah.
some eating, do some
Yeah, do,
weightlifting.
do some eating, weightlifting, hiking. There you go. Done. Easy peasy. So you get into, how were you feeling starting Heartland? Did you feel pretty recovered, or were there some lingering, fatigue or anything like that? Honestly.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was looking at several people took pictures because I was the only woman signed up for the 125, and obviously the only woman signed up for the challenge. And I see these pictures that was, 9:30 at night before we started. And I looked just so relaxed and nice and happy. I think I was feeling really, really good. And then but I had barely run at all between the two, like really had just
Yeah.
rested.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
didn't really know what was going to happen. And when I first started, like those first 3 or 4 miles, I thought, oh my goodness
It'll be
gracious,
a long day.
this is going to be tough. Yeah. My quads were like, excuse me, what
Yeah.
are you doing? But then I kind of got in a groove. I found a couple of running buddies who were starting at the same time and ran with them for about 3 hours before I split off by myself on the 125 part of the route. And it was fine. Like it ended up being fine. And once I got through those first kind of aches and pains of the
Yeah.
first couple miles, which I'm
Yeah.
going to have anyway, mid 50s, I'm going to have it anyway, but it was
You just
fine.
told on yourself.
That's all right. I'm proud of it. I do a lot of cool things in mid 50s, so I have
That
no problem with that
that's kind of,
whatsoever.
September I turned 50, and I'm like, yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I'm still
Yeah.
cruising.
Living my best life right now.
There you go. There you go. Well, so you know, you took off and you trained hard, but it's still another 125 miles, which, you know, that's
Yeah.
never easy. It's never a cakewalk. I'm sure you hit some lows. And how, I don't know, after like a double challenge like that, how good did that finish line look after the final loop?
My gosh. Well, I was super nauseous. This is the 125 was the first time that I threw up a couple of times. It was the first time that I hallucinated. It's the first time that I started falling asleep while running, which I've never done before.
That's weird. I hate that.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
well,
a
okay.
little tunnel kind of, I didn't know what was happening.
What did you see hallucinate? You got to talk about your hallucinations. I want to hear it.
I saw, I saw Mufasa from The Lion King.
Nice.
He was sitting next to the trail and just kind of nodding as I went by. That was fascinating.
Where did that come from?
Several, I don't know. I really don't know.
So
and then
good.
I saw several golden retrievers.
All right.
And then later I checked in to say bunches and bunches of love and thank you to one of my, that was during one section, about a 17-mile segment where I had one particular pacer. And she goes by Q, and I messaged Q and I said, wasn't that funny? Well, like, wasn't that funny when I was hallucinating? And she goes, yeah. And it was also funny when you said you were hallucinating, seeing this big pond, but it was real. But you were convinced that it wasn't real.
It wasn't real.
Apparently that I was seeing things that actually were real, but telling her that's not real.
That's good. That's good.
It was a very strange experience.
I think it's that sleeping awake type thing where you're halfway in between and your brain is trying to just, reality just gets so mixed up, and it's such a weird thing. And like sometimes you're hallucinating when you see it, and then I don't know, and I guess sometimes you think you're hallucinating when you actually see it. I don't know.
Yeah, I said that to them. I said, well, that's not a hallucination because I know that's not real. And they said, what do you think a hallucination is? So I think you're right. I mean, the fact that you're seeing it in and of itself, I guess, is a hallucination, even if you know it's not real.
So it sounds like, I mean, even though Heartland 125, because of the accumulation, sounds like it really like it pushed you, you know, like you said, you were experiencing things that you haven't had to deal with, which is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of cool when you like, oh, a new thing, you know, it's like a new, I don't know, fatigue, a new hurt, a new something, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, a new experience. And I will say, you know, I was excited. I'm sure you've done this too with your athletes, but Peter came to pace with me. He crewed for a while and then he paced with me the last 17 miles of the Heartland, and which was funny in and of itself. By the way, I had some videos that I posted on like a compilation video I posted on Instagram. And if you know Peter at all, he's about 6'5" and I'm 5'2" on the best of days. So we kind of look like the Muppets, like some Muppets going down the road together. But
that's good.
But we're getting to the end and he knew I was super nauseous and he was trying to help me make some choices on kind of limited aid stations. The aid station volunteers were great, but I mean, like I'm a special food needs person. So it was tough. And he could tell that I felt overall good, but I was just really nauseous from the nutrition problems. So he just kept pushing me a little bit more, like let's run to the next light pole. Okay, now maybe 2 light poles. Oh, look, there's a photographer. We're only 5 miles away. You can't stop now because there's a photographer taking pictures. So kept pushing. And he was telling me about doing this with one of his athletes where she wanted a PR. And he said, I can help you get a PR, but you may not feel very well when you get to the end. So as I get to the end, and I'm so excited to see the finish line, like you said, I'm smiling and I'm getting the trophy and the picture and all the buckle and all these things. And I immediately walked out after that and threw up everywhere in the parking lot of the finish line. And then Peter said, my work here is done, and tossed his hands up.
That's so good. Oh man, you literally left it all out there.
I did. There was nothing left at all. That's right.
Man, but it's hard to explain to people because, you know, you worked really hard for that. You did the training, you figured it out, and then to achieve it, it's just so fulfilling. It's so affirming. And like, I don't know, just setting big goals, but you're confident, but you know, things can happen. If there wasn't a chance of failure, then it wouldn't be a big deal, but there's always a chance, you know, something's going to give out, you're going to fail, or, you know, but to push through it and get it done, you know, congratulations. I love it.
Thank
That's so
you.
cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'm looking through, I like that Ultra sign up shows me the future things. And you signed up for the 100 hour at the FRUD. I call it the FRUD,
The
the Front
Fred.
Range Ultra Days. That's one of the Ultraverse crew. That looks fun. It's a looped course, but it looks fun. And I heard it went really well this past year. So you get to join the fun for 100 hours. What's your goal? What you going to try for?
I'm going to get as close to 300 miles as I can get.
Love it.
That's
Love
what
it.
I'm going to plan for.
All
Yeah.
right.
We'll see what happens.
That's good. That's good. And then, that's in, well, wait, I'm looking at that. It's backwards because before that, you got the Southern States 200. I totally missed that. What is that one? I don't even know what it's in Delta, Alabama.
So both of those are kind of new. So I think this will be next year will be the second year for the FRUD. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
Yep.
And then will be the second year for Southern States 200 as well. So it's a point to point, and it starts in Georgia and ends at the highest point in Alabama.
Nice.
It's the Pinhoti Trail, I think is
Oh
what
yeah.
it used
Okay.
to be.
So that I did hear about that one then, because somebody told me they were looking at that one because they had run Pinhoti before and they wanted to look at this one. So that looks point to point's nice.
Yeah.
Interesting to plan for. Harder to crew, but it's part of the challenge. It's part of what
I feel for my crew. Yeah. I always feel like it's less hard for me and harder for my crew. So I hate that part. It'll be the opposite at FRUD, right? That I can let them set up a party campsite and then they'll just watch me go around many, many times. So a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
No, well that's, you did, I don't know. I love the ethos of ultra running. You do the hard things, but then you find other hard things to do, different hard things. And, I look forward to following along and watching you continue to, to do these things. And what are your, like, I don't know, do you have an ultimate goal, or if you could do any race the next year? I think you're just signing up for whatever you want to do. So, but is there anything like that you really want to do that you just hadn't been able to sign up for yet?
There's something that I am working on, but it's not a sign up actually. So next year, what's not an ultra sign up is I'm partnering with Girls on the Run International and my own employer, the Cigna Group. And I'm running the American Discovery Trail, the Central Southern route, which actually starts just in Indiana, right outside of Cincinnati. And it goes through Southern Indiana, Southern Illinois, Southern Missouri, Southern Kansas, and on into Denver. And it's about 2,100 miles. So I've been trying to think of the best way for me personally to run across the country. And when I found this trail, it's not as straightforward as just drawing your shortest line, right, from east to west, because then you find yourself running along interstates and things, which I have no interest in. But these are kind of rails to trails and little local backcountry roads. That section is going to be my first section of a transcontinental run that I want to do. And as I run along, it's going to be super cool. I'm excited about it. I'm actually going to be giving some talks at little schools and community centers in those rural areas, like the ones where I grew up, along the way, and handing out some kits for healthy habits building from Girls on the Run. So it's just going to be a really interesting experience. The difficulty, other than all the logistical planning, which I'm kind of used to doing that for work and just in my personal life. So that'll be one thing. It's going to take me running 23 miles a day, roughly for 90 days to get that done.
Okay. That's awesome.
That's really the thing that Peter and I are going to be working on from a coaching perspective is what's the right approach to doing that kind of preparation.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, and that's going to be just a relentless, 90 days of moving, and that's going to be your life for 90 days. Wow.
Yeah, we got a travel trailer for the first time. We've been trying to think about ahead of time about food storage and all these sorts of things that I've never done before. So it's going to be a big challenge. And I think, it's near and dear to my heart because I grew up in those areas and I know that, there's access to care issues. There's a lot of like lack of access to fresh food sometimes, and just not a natural propensity or easy access to organized community exercise. So I just hope that my own running journey and just being there in the middle of those communities can inspire some girls like I was who would never give running a try before. My hope is that maybe they'll second guess and reconsider what they can actually do.
So awesome. So what's the date on that? When are you looking at doing it?
So it's tentative right now, but it's roughly the last week of April until the
Okay.
third week of July
Okay.
of next
Well,
year.
yeah. So you're gonna have a website or some ways to track you and things like that.
Yeah, we're working on the website. And of course, I mean, I post everything to Instagram, which is just my name, Suzan Brydon. So I hope everyone will follow along. And if they know anyone in those areas, encourage them to come and listen to the talk and interact and come run a few miles with me. You know, I'm going to be plugging away out there and can use some good conversation, good company.
Oh man, that's gonna be such an awesome adventure. And so, like your first couple races of the year are gonna be basically, I mean, you're training for the races, but they're training for that too.
It
That's
is.
that's cool. Well, I'll definitely
Yeah.
be reposting and following along and cheering
Thanks.
you on from here, man. That's gonna be really cool. I love having stuff like that on the calendar to how cool that yeah that gets
Yeah.
you out of bed to go run in the morning, even though you like to sleep a lot.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be a lot on the body. I'm gonna see how many potatoes I can fit in the travel trailer, and I already got an inflatable cold plunge, so we'll see
Nice.
if any of that helps me along the way. But yeah, it's just my heart will drive me through those miles. There's no doubt about it.
Nice, nice. Well, that's fantastic. Well, Susan, it's been great chatting with you, and I don't know, just kind of visiting your journey and
You too.
it's where you've been, but also I'm looking forward to following where you're going, and we'll have to jump on again, especially after this 2,100-mile adventure. We definitely need to get on again and unpack how it went, because that's 90 days. That's big. That's a lot more than I don't know what 80 hours.
Yeah, that's going to be substantial. But yeah, I appreciate the support. And it was so great to talk to you. And I'm looking forward to keeping you up to date before and during the adventure.
Sounds good. All right. Well, take care over there, and I'll be watching.
Thanks, David.